The person signed in is Brooke Schiffler. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm trying to get everything working together here.
Is this Alex?
Yes.
Okay.
And Clint should be signed in too. I don't know if he's in yet or not.
Who?
Clint Rock.
Who was that?
He's supposed to be
Okay.
signing in.
Okay, he's not here yet, but thank you. Clint, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We do have a quorum. Everybody is signed in. I think if you want to start the meeting anytime.
Okay, great. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this snowy February 1st, 2021 Washington County Planning Commission meeting. With us this evening, and I'm not sure if everybody's on, but I'm going to name off the members. We have Jeremiah Weddle, Denny Reeder, David Klein, BJ Getz, Jeff Semler, and Randy Wagner. The first item on this evening's agenda are the minutes. These are the January 4th, 2021 Planning Commission Public Rezoning Information and Regular Meeting Minutes. I trust that everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any items of discussion or changes, so on and so forth? Hearing none, I would be looking for a recommendation.
Clint, this is Jeff Semler. I move we accept the minutes as printed.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Dave, I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. So moved. So carried. The next item under new business, We have preliminary consultations. The shops at the shops at Sharpsburg Pike, PC-20-004, is a concept plan for a proposed mixed-use development located at 10319 Sharpsburg Pike near the I-70 interchange. The property is currently zoned highway interchange. However, a change in zoning to mixed-use commercial will be required in order for the project to move forward as proposed. And the planner is Travis Allen. Travis, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, so Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. As stated, being presented here is a concept plan for your review and comment. The applicant, Frederick Seibert and Associates, on behalf of Sharpsburg Pike LLC, has proposed a mixed-use development in a vacant property at 10319 Sharpsburg Pike near the I-70 interchange. Presently, this property is zoned HI, which doesn't allow for residential development. Accordingly, the review of this concept plan is the first of a multi-step process being pursued by the developer to establish a mixed-use zoning district. In this case, the developer is proposing to rezone the property to mixed-use commercial, which would permit both the residential and commercial uses looking to be sought at the property. Specifically, the concept plan has proposed commercial, retail, and multifamily housing land uses to be established at the location, which you can see in the image on your screen and was routed in your agenda materials. The item was presented in a preliminary consultation on December 3rd. At that meeting, representatives from Planning and Zoning, Plan Review, Soil Conservation, the Health Department, Public Schools, City of Hagerstown Utilities, and the applicant were in attendance at that meeting. Their comments, as well as all written comments received from the reviewing agencies, have been summarized in the agenda materials provided to you. The plan was also routed out to the State Highway Administration, who did not have a comment on the proposed plan. Amongst the other comments that, of course, you probably had a chance to read through by now, probably the most significant issue that came up in reviewing this concept plan was in relation to school capacity in the South Hagerstown High School District, where this project falls. Amongst the written comments were some from Chad Criswell of Washington County Public Schools that should be in your agenda packet. At the time of that preliminary consultation, we ran a preliminary school test under the county's adequate public facilities ordinance, and that test revealed that the proposed development would cause South High to exceed 120% of the state rated capacity. When that situation occurs, the developer must work out school mitigation with the Board of County Commissioners in consultation with the Board of Education. Of course, this is all after the rezoning would be approved and a plan is submitted. So this would be down the line, but a preliminary school test is what I'm referring to now. So you should also be aware that there are several other proposed developments in the city or county that fall within the South High School District that are either online or being proposed that would affect school capacity in that district. The cumulative effect of these developments could potentially necessitate significant facility improvements or other measures, which again potentially could require considerable contributions by the county to meet the needs of the new students generated by those developments. Our department is in contact with various entities about this issue, and we'll be able to provide the Planning Commission with updates as these things develop over time and conversations are had with the Board of County Commissioners, amongst other bodies. So following this consultation, the applicant would be submitting a formal application for a rezoning at the property. So this consultation here tonight won't be the last time you have an opportunity to comment on the plan, as long as they continue to pursue this development. So at this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Clint to see if any members have comments on this proposed concept plan.
Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. Members of the board, this is open for discussion. If anyone would like to comment, the floor is open.
This is Dave. I don't have any problems with the concept plan. I'm curious if South High is overpopulation now, and of these various residential developments come through, what's the closest high school that where if it were redistricted, what would be the closest? Is that Williamsport?
I think there's various options. Williamsport is an option. I don't know that Smithsburg would necessarily be an option for this particular part of the county too, but those are the major ones aside from North High that serve the growth area. So one of those three would be the most likely candidates, but kind of a lot of dominoes to fall before that would be decided. If that was the option chosen by both, the Board of Ed and the Board of County Commissioners.
I was just curious. That's obviously something that would need to be worked out, but I don't have any problem with the whole concept of combining residential and commercial in that particular area.
I agree with you, Dave. I think obviously the school enrollment issue is the big one. If that would have to be resolved. I think if they can figure out a way to do that, then mixed use I think is a prime idea for development. I like the idea of mixing residential and commercial.
Yeah. The other question I would have is I'm looking at this for parkland or whatever, something for kids, place for kids to play, and I don't really see a lot. I see a tiny little play area. What would be the closest park for recreation for kids?
Probably for this one, I would almost think it might be Marty Snook Park. I could be wrong if somebody correct me on that. We are in the process of the next few months going to be updating our land preservation parks and recreation plan. And that Sharpsburg Pike corridor is kind of going to be one of the major areas we start looking at to build out new park developments, because obviously there's a lot of development going on there in general. So it is that particular corridor right now doesn't have a lot in the way of public parks and facilities. So that's going to be something that, as we're preparing that functional plan, we're going to have to look at during the planning period of that plan.
Dave, you probably have Daub's Woods.
I was just thinking over I was just thinking over at Daub's would probably be the closest, or the whole school ground area.
Travis, how about traffic flow? Sharpsburg Pike, I mean, I know there have been some improvements done out there, but do we have any concerns state highway wise or anything like that?
State highway did not comment on it. Rebecca, I think you're on the call. I know you had some familiarity with that plan. Would you be interested in chiming in on that at all?
Travis, this is Trevor Frederick representing the applicant here. I can jump in on that question. So the developer had a traffic impact study developed for a complete build out for this area, including the residential and commercial uses here. That traffic study was approved by both the county and state highway administration, and it included a traffic signal to be installed at that new intersection down by the commercial development in front of the Sharpsburg Pike entrance. And so that study had a higher intensive use in the back. I think it proposed hotel use versus this apartment use that we're showing here.
Clint, this is Jeff Semler. I don't have a problem with the mixed use in this particular area either. And I think that given what I read in the school or in the papers about the schools, the domino effect of school is just going to have to be dealt with by the school board, pushing kids from south to Williamsport, pushing kids from Williamsport to half empty Clear Spring, and maybe that solves some of their problem.
Yeah. I was actually gonna make a joke about Hancock being at like about 40% capacity, but
Yeah.
I doubt I doubt that's really part of the solution. So you're right. I mean, pushing some things west may be an option. That's clearly for the school board to work out and for the developer to work out with the school board.
Yep.
But it would be necessary to be worked out prior to, this project getting the full green light. So Travis, what are you looking for from us?
Again, really, we're just kind of collecting comments at this point.
Okay.
What the applicant is going to do is to take these comments that you guys provide, along with everything that's already been provided by the agencies. That will probably go into a revision of this concept plan that will then accompany their submission of the rezoning application. So all this again would come back before you at the public information meeting. So. Mostly we're just collecting your comments to provide to Frederick Seibert and Associates so they can revise this plan and give themselves the best possibility of getting the rezoning approved.
Okay. All right. So having heard that, are there any further comments from members of the board? If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. If we're ready, okay, we'll go ahead. Under preliminary consultations, item number 2, we have Arnett Farms Apartments, PC-20-005. This is a concept plan for a proposed mixed-use development location or located at Lot 3, immediately south of the new Walmart near the I-78 interchange. The property is currently zoned highway interchange. However, a change to zoning mixed-use commercial will be required in order for the project to move forward as proposed. And Jill is the planner. Good evening, Jill. Jill, you may be
Good evening,
muted.
all.
there you
Jill
are.
Baker, Director of the Department of. There, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we have you.
Jill Baker, Department of Planning and Zoning, the Director. Before you is pretty much a lot of what Travis has already said in terms of the background information, the meeting information that we held. So I don't want to reiterate a whole lot of that. We're looking at a property that is just south of what Travis just talked about and on the opposite side of Sharpsburg Pike. What's being proposed, what you'll see is actually comments from staff based upon a submittal of apartment complexes that included 212 units and a small amount of commercial. What you did receive later was a revised submittal from the applicant showing a reduced number of residential units based on comments that they received from staff and an increased amount of commercial area to make up the difference. Largely, our comments still remain the same. As far as the overall density, it cannot exceed, I think, 12 dwelling units per acre in the PUD. Major concerns coming out of this, again, is the schools. I'm not going to harp on that. We just talked about that. This property is also within the Rockland Woods, E. Russell Hicks, and South High school districts. Roads are a concern. It seems like the overwhelming majority of traffic for this specific development will be coming out onto private roads, which typically, may not necessarily be a bad thing, but the sheer number and volume coming out of this specific development, there would only be one actual entrance onto a public road. So actually 2 entrances, but the majority of the traffic would be traveling on private roads. So that is a concern from our standpoint in terms of long-term maintenance and things like that. You'll see some other comments with regard to setbacks and things like that that may not necessarily apply now, depending upon the relocation of some of these things. But The overall concern is simply the overwhelming majority of the plan is directed toward residential, when in the comprehensive plan, this property is slated as a commercial land use. So there is what we feel to be a discrepancy and a potential incompatibility with the comprehensive plan. Those are the general concerns that we shared as public. As Travis said, this is simply just a concept plan at this point. The applicant is seeking further consultation from the Planning Commission members so that they may adjust and readjust their plans to submit for a rezoning case should they want to pursue this further. That's all I have. Clint, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Joe.
Wouldn't-
As you go ahead.
I was going to say, wouldn't this have the same school capacity issue as well, being in
It
the
does.
same vicinity?
Yes, it absolutely does.
So we have a school capacity issue on a similar
Yeah,
project,
absolutely.
very close in proximity to this one, and then this one compounds on that concern and issue.
Exactly. And I think really, even though they're two separate properties,
In
and
it-
so there would be two separate rezoning hearings, we have to look at these together, especially when it comes to dealing with the school capacity issue. I think the developer has to really spend some real significant time with the school board to work something out. I can't imagine that this could go forward without some sort of plan to mitigate the school enrollment issue. It just is going to be a huge hurdle to overcome otherwise.
Clint, this is Dave. I also have a concern for open space in the area. I mean, school grounds and the Daubs Park and so forth, all of that's over on the other side of 70. And I don't see any, I mean, you have a couple of hundred units going in. That means hundreds of kids probably with nowhere to go and nothing to do. And to me, that just spells trouble. I don't see places in this plan either where kids can go to be kids. And I have a concern about that. And within walking distance, not, to get somebody to drive you over to the ball fields or the park over on the other side of 70. Something open space for kids within walking distance. That's a concern for me.
And I think it's a valid concern too, especially in an area where some of your major roadways now are becoming pretty congested. So you don't want to have a lot of kids riding bikes or walking.
You end up with
along
kids,
some of those.
yeah, they'll end up hanging out in parking lots and causing problems for the commercial businesses and things like that. I mean, and
Right.
maybe rightly so. If there's nowhere to go or nothing to do, I mean, there needs to be some place within walking distance where they can go be kids.
The other concern that I have with both of these projects has to do with the traffic flow on Sharpsburg Pike. I mean, you figure Westview, the development further down Sharpsburg Pike dumps a tremendous amount of residential traffic into the same corridor of the exit on 70. I know there are lights coming off of 70, but you could get back up all the way up the ramp. I mean, you've got a lot of traffic running through that area. And I'm not sure that the roads can potentially handle it.
Comprehensive plan call for commercial. I think they need steer back to commercial.
I didn't catch that, Denny. What did you say?
I think Jill stated that the comprehensive plan called for it to mainly be commercial, so maybe they ought to let some of that residential out and turn to more commercial use.
I tend to agree with that. The extreme amount of residential growth in that particular area puts demands on the infrastructure that maybe weren't originally anticipated. So I think maybe you're right, Denny.
Yeah, this is Jeff Summer. I got to agree with that. I mean, it seems to me that how long are we going to tear up that exit 29 interchange? I mean, I go up and down that road all the time because my office is south of near Sharpsburg. But I mean, it seems like to me, we've dumped a ton of money into that interchange, and now we're going to add more stress to that interchange and have to do it again. I guess that's just my thinking. There is a little open space there, Dave, with I see a splash pad and something else, but I don't think that's my opinion. I don't know that that's rightly located when you see that you've got a restaurant parking lot behind it. Across the road, you've got the Walmart parking lot. I had the same concerns about, again, bored kids all of a sudden taking their skateboards and heading to the Walmart parking lot and that kind of thing.
Okay. Are there, excuse me, are there any further comments from members of the board? Remember, this is just a preliminary consultation, so they're just going to gather our comments and use them to decide whether this is a plan they want to move forward with or make amendments to that. So I'll give you one last opportunity to speak up on it. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next item.
Yeah, Clint, one last thing this is Jeff again. I think that State Highways needs to weigh in. I mean, just sitting on their thumbs is not their place. I guess I don't have the right to tell them that, but I think that their input would go a long way.
Okay. Well, we'll be sure that these comments are shared with the applicant. I'm sure the representatives are on the meeting with us or at the meeting with us. But hearing no further comments, we'll move forward to the next item. Under forest conservation, we have Stoner Family Farms, lots 1 and 2. This is S-20-034. Request to use natural regeneration to meet forest conservation requirements for property located at 17904 College Road. The zoning is agricultural rural, and Travis is the planner. Welcome back, Travis.
All right. Yep. So Travis Allen again, presenting this one, Department of Planning and Zoning. Again, it's a request to utilize natural regenerations to meet forest conservation requirements for Stoner Family Farms lots 1 and 2, which total almost 7 acres between the 2 lots. They're subdividing these 2 lots. Lot 1 is exempt from forest conservation. They're going to be using the interfamily transfer in order to meet the requirements for that lot. So therefore, they have a 0.59 acre planting requirement for lot 2. And again, the applicant is proposing to satisfy that requirement using natural regeneration within an existing stand of trees on lot 1 that did not qualify as forest at the time of the forest stand delineation submission in 2016. So again, these situations deal with the Forest Conservation Ordinance, Article 10, preferred sequence of mitigation. That sequence describes the techniques for mitigating forest conservation from on-site planting or retention down to the payment in lieu of option being the least preferred. Again, the intent of the ordinance is to either preserve or create as much forest on-site or within the same watershed before moving it off-site. So if deviating from those upper level options in the sequence, justification is provided by a qualified professional and reviewed by you guys in the Planning Commission. Natural regeneration is a less preferred option, but viable under the right circumstances. You have a few pieces of information in support of this request. You have my memo, which summarizes things. You have a justification letter from the qualified professional. And you also have the Forest Conservation Plan, page 2 of which shows the proposed location for the easement. The justification letter provided by the qualified professional, of course, states that the site, he has judged it being suitable for natural regeneration if the surrounding agricultural activities are ceased in the vicinity of this forest stand. And he also notes that the on-site trees on this property connect to a larger stand located on the adjoining properties. So looking at this request, again, as stated before, the intent is to do your mitigation on-site whenever possible. So this would help to accomplish that objective. If they did supplemental planting in this wood area, it would require us to get a forest bond, which requires a 2 to 3 minimum year monitoring time for staff that in all likelihood would probably be better spent on other projects that need forest mitigation provided for them. So the request is before you to do natural regeneration in order to meet the forest mitigation requirements for lots 1 and 2.
All right, well, thank you, Travis. I'll open the floor to members of the board for comment.
This is Dave. I'll pipe off first because this isn't the first time something like this has come up. I am always in favor of natural succession over spending tons of money to plant sticks that die anyway, and you still wind up with natural succession. So this to me is a no-brainer. Absolutely, this is what they should do.
This is Denny. I agree too. And Mr. Rock has had a nice letter, so he's the expert. So I believe this is viable.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I would be looking for a motion.
This is Dave. I move to approve.
Denny,
Is there a second? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So carried. Thank you.
I thank you.
Oh, no problem. Good luck. Under other business, we have updates of staff approvals from Ashley Holloway. I trust everyone received an email with that list in it. Ashley, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. Ashley Holloway, Director of Plan Review and Permitting. Most of what happened for the month of January was mainly in the permitting section of my division, but there were a few plans and plats and agreements that were made. So just very quickly, there was a couple of site plans, 7 grading plans, 1 traffic impact study, 2 preliminary final plats, and 1 stormwater concept plan that was submitted. And if you have any questions about these, I'm here to answer your questions for you. And that's pretty much basically it.
Well, thank you, Ashley. Are there any questions, members of the board?
Busy month.
Yep. I agree. We'll take it.
Yes.
Yeah, the start to February is going to be a little tough with this weather, so hopefully,
Right.
It'll keep up.
Yes.
Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate the printout. It really lets you understand everything y'all is doing in the county. Really nice.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the compliment.
I agree. Okay. Well, unless there are further questions for Mr. Hawley, we'll move on to the next item on this evening's agenda. It is a closed session to discuss potential candidates to be recommended to the Board of County
Hey,
Commissioners.
Clint.
Yes.
Hey, Clint, before we go there, can I just make a comment?
Yes.
So in thinking about what Dave was talking about with open space, for years and years and years, I've spent a lot of time throughout the state with youth athletics. And one of the things that I've seen is oftentimes when developments are put in, one of the requirements are that those developments provide land for parks, for athletic fields and for those types of things in the developments, whether that be apartment based, whether that be, single family and, multi-unit versus a residential development. Washington County doesn't have any types of those requirements. And Jill, maybe this is something that you can speak to, but I asked the planning commission, don't know where it's supposed to go or any of that. But is that something that we should be considering? Is there a historical thing there that I'm unaware of? You guys know what I'm talking about? I mean, when I go all over the state of Maryland and all over different areas, there are soccer fields, lacrosse fields, football fields, baseball fields in the middle of these major developments, because as a part of the development requirements, when those developments were built, the county ordinances require so much land to be reserved and given for those types of things.
We have discussed those kind of issues in the past. I will say, first and foremost, in the mixed use developments and the PUDs, we do have certain minimum requirements in terms of tot lots and things like that. As far as park reservation goes, we have tried to come up with some language like that in the past. It seems to falter through the system because essentially what ends up coming back is, we have a hard enough time getting development here. It becomes a financial burden for the developer to come up with mitigation for schools and roads and now parks and sidewalks. And it's a culmination of all the different regulations that come into play. So it's just sort of faltered over time. It's definitely something that as planners we would strive for, but it's kind of up to the planning commission and the county commissioners to take that initiative to move that forward. We're happy to bring stuff forward to you if that's something you want to delve into further and bring the topic up again. But in the past, that's basically what's come into play. Is it's very difficult for Washington County to be competitive in any way, shape, or form with other areas in our region in terms of regulation. So right, wrong, or indifferent, that's where we're at.
Well, I guess I would comment to you to say, we're 11 miles between our state borders, West Virginia versus Pennsylvania, and all the rules are different. And then you're competing with Maryland area. At the same time, we're not inventing more land. That's not possible. And there is certainly in this community a shortage of those types of areas. And, while I can understand trying to be competitive to attract development and developers, but we've had a number of developments come in, and I can tell you, in my time on the commission, it's something that has never come up and been discussed that, maybe as a planning commission, we should consider taking something on. And as our land inventory becomes thinner and thinner, it becomes more and more paramount to meet those types of needs of those communities when they're built. Just my 2 cents and a thought to think about what Dave was talking about with these couple. And it's not just these developments that we have to think about that on. It's really most of the development going on in the county in the future, because 15, 20 years ago, that might have been the case that we have to be competitive to attract development. But land continues to become sparse. Just my 2 cents. That's all I got, Clint.
All right. Well, thank you. Obviously, we want to make sure that those comments are made now while we have these preliminary consultations in front of us, so that those comments can go back to the developer. And you're right; these are things that we need to consider for the future. All right. So the next item is the closed session. This was the